In this video, we're going to be looking at the minisub Krogo, which is a UMA minisub. It's a semi-submersible, meaning that it has submarine mode as well as boat mode, and it has an airlock for divers to enter the water while submerged. So come along as I show you the features. So here we are on the exterior of the Krogo minisub. As you can see, there are thrusters positioned on the sides as well as underneath for stability. It does have an auto hold function, depth hold and this type of thing. There's exterior seats for divers if you are driving, if you're playing with your friends, or if you're saving people, you can put them on these seats and they'll be on the exterior, but you could still drive around. There's a diesel engine that also acts as a generator for this minisub, as well as the battery powered drive. So the door automatically locks at a certain depth, but you do have an override button which could cause flooding, but it's more for emergencies. So now if we step into the airlock chamber and close this, you see here there's some sort of underwater welding equipment, there's diving equipment and airlock, as well as ballast tank values. So the way this works, this is a system that I thought up. Maybe others are using it, but I devised this in my head. The ballast tank of the minisub fills up so you can gain neutral buoyancy. But if you're going to be leaving the airlock while you're underwater, the ballast tank will actually fill the airlock. Therefore, no water is added because we can't pump water out. Like in real life, you'd have a pressurized air system and it would pump the ballast out while you're underwater. But in this game, it's a limitation. You have to be near the surface to pump. So we never add water to our system. Whatever is either in the ballast tank or in the airlock. And that's all of my airlocks work this way. So we do have seats in here. While you're filling up, it's easier to be sitting instead of kind of floating around, and the game glitches and throws you around. Then we move into the actual driving compartment. So you can close that. So the airlock is now in there. And now we're standing up in the cupola, which is this little kind of housing, this bubble. So in the cupola, you have 4 seats down here for people that are in the dry area. We have our interior red lights that I usually put. There's a heater for large depths, and then there's the seat for the controls. So what happens once you sit on it, it starts to rotate automatically into position. This is to give the minimum distance or minimum width for the cupola. So we do have a fire extinguisher in case there's a fire. Here are all our modes for the vessel. We have some equipment down here. Here's the same controls for the airlock as in the airlock. So the operator could operate the airlock from here. We have our depth holds, there's sonar, and some the spotlight modes are here. So if we turn on the displays, you could see that we were in negative, but whatever, now we're here. 0, it gives us our depth, our seabed, and all this stuff. Now if we turn on the boat mode, automatically this turns to speed. And we do have a diesel boat mode, which gets a top speed in high gear of around 23 or 4. So we put on the high gear, so there we are at 23. Now that's full boat mode. But we can turn on the electric boat mode, and it boosts our speed up to around 33. Now of course, in this case, the battery is slowly being drained, but you do have a much higher top speed, and you could also turn off the boat mode and go full electric mode if you want. Now in addition to these boat modes, we do have a generator mode, which you press and it automatically throttles up and it charges the minisub. So you can see the battery slowly going up. So we're just sitting in idle. We can't be moving forward, but we do have a generator on board to charge up our battery. Now if we turn that off, the last mode is the submarine mode, which is obviously purely electric. So we're going to hit that on in a second. But first, let's fill our ballast. So we see that our neutral buoyancy is 400 liters. So if we fill this, it does go fast because we're using the there we go. Because we're using the it's a door that just opens in the bottom and lets it water in. But here we are, neutral buoyancy, all our doors are closed. We're slowly starting to sink, which is okay. We'll turn on our submarine mode. That's the only mode that's on, that's good. Lastly, there is a stealth mode, I'll show you in a second, but once we're back on the surface. So, we do have our front spotlight, we have our full perimeter spotlights, and we do have a cupola side lights. So there's a decent amount of spotlights on this thing. But now that we're near this shipwreck, we could make our way down to it and see what we kind of come up to. We see that our depth, our seabed is 80 or negative 80. So we could put this to go automatically down for us. So let's say negative 70. And it self-levels out. And the thrusters will just bring us down. It does work slow, obviously, because what will happen is the thrusters will compensate. If you're starting to tilt forward like this, the rear thrusters have to go a little stronger. So for that reason, it doesn't quite go as fast as if you were giving it forward thrust. So we could either do that. If we put it to 0, it turns it off. And then we can give ourselves just forward thrust and start to go down ourselves. Now it's not as nimble as the smaller mini subs because this still is fairly large in size, but it is well maneuverable anyways. So once we come here, we could start to turn down our thrust, and we'll stop here, and we'll turn on our position hold and depth hold. So now the sub will stay here at this depth. Ideally, it doesn't push us back and forth. There is no position hold, but when you do turn, the side thrusters do turn on, so you could actually rotate on the spot. When you just press A and D, you do have these little side-mounted thrusters spin you on the spot, which is nice for maneuverability as well. So now that we're here, we can check our batteries, we're doing okay. So we've turned this on, we do have a sonar, which is nice, in the mini sub. We have a camera mode as well if we want to record things. Actually, not record things, if we want to view things. I do believe it sends, if we are connected to a mothership on our cable back here, it'll actually send the feed up to it. So now if we leave the seat, it spins us back here. We can make our way into the airlock chamber. Now, I don't like to put on the diving equipment until the airlock is nearly full, otherwise you start to waste your oxygen supply. But here, let's press fill, and we slowly start to fill the water here. So if we watch this, these levels are gonna move, and now it's saying that there's uneven pressure, so the doors are locked. They lock automatically unless we press this override. But here the water is coming up pretty fast here. We'll put on our scuba gear, we'll grab a spear gun, and we'll wait for the pressure to equalize. Once it's equalized, then we can open this door. Nearly there, there we go. So it's equalized, we turn off the fill. And the game does glitch sometimes, but anyways, we've stepped out of the mini sub. So here it is. You can see that it's keeping the position fairly well. And then we could explore the shipwreck. Let's see if we can find some treasure. Or if we come across a friendly shark, that may be happening as well. Very interesting. This is an old one. It looks like something from the 1800s. It has a big mast. It has kind of the control area of the bridge, and it's purely wooden. Interesting. I can't find the treasure, so I don't know where the little treasure box is, but we could make our way back to the mini sub. Now be careful not to go into the propellers because it will slice you up. We also do have you could control the spotlights from the exterior when you press this button. And that's intentional, so if you're already outside of the vessel, you could still control that. Alright, let's make our way back inside. Now I wish they would, the game developers would let you close doors while you're sitting, but that's okay. So let's drain this. We could watch our airlock water pressure. There we go. Now it does drain fairly fast, so that's at least a good thing. We'll put our gun back. Luckily didn't have to use it. So there, we left our seat, it kind of glitched out and did that. My advice is when you're unseating yourself, hold control, so hold the crouch button so you don't end up leaving the mini sub, because then you'll have to use the emergency door override and flood the thing, but it's just a glitch. There's nothing I can do about that. Okay, we're back in here. Let's dry off. Then we take our seat. Alright, we'll turn off the stationary. Well, actually no, none of these are stationary, so we could actually get going. Give it some power. Now I'm going to turn off the depth hold. Actually, let's set it to just a little higher. So right now we want to go to a depth of -75. Turn that off and it starts to rise. Pulls us up to depth of 75. And likewise, we could also set it to take us all the way to the top. So if you put like 1 or whatever, it'll take us up. Not the fastest way to go up, but it does work. So yeah, here we have this. If you do have a friend sitting here, they'll get a warning that the airlock's in use when you're doing that. So yeah, we'll make our way up to the surface. So yeah, you could just let it do this automatically, but we're gonna turn this mode off, and we're just gonna give it full power and aim up. You'll see the tilt. And we're gonna shoot up through the surface. There we go. And now that we're back on the surface, we'll turn off the submarine mode, we'll stop ourselves, and we'll start to drain the ballast tank. Because of course that weighs us down and makes us heavier and slower, so we do want to empty the ballast tank as soon as possible. We have enough fuel to get back to base, so this is not a long-range vehicle. The fuel, like that, it took around half the tank just to get us from the base to here. So this is still more like a support vehicle rather than its own individual thing. You could use it, but just it's not quite optimized for long excursions. Ballast tank's almost empty. So last thing I'm going to show you guys is if we turn on the boat mode, diesel and electric, because it's a semi-submersible, meaning that it can go on the surface or underwater, it has the boat mode like I covered, but you could turn on this sort called stealth mode, and it dips the whole thing until just the cupola is above the surface. So it slows us down drastically. But the idea behind this is that it does give us sort of stealth. Now I know the thing's yellow, so it's not the stealthiest thing anyways. But if you were using it in a way where you get an advantage by being kind of just sticking out of the surface like Crocodile's eyes, you could do that. And of course, if you repaint it black and whatever, it could be a decent assault vehicle. But in this case, UMA is a research organization, so for us, the yellow and blue is kind of the standard colors. But there you have it. So we explored the Krogo minisub, saw some shipwrecks, tested out the airlock, and hopefully you learned some of the features. So stick around for more videos. Thank you for watching, and happy Stormworksing.